Mac and cheese was like one of the first things that I ever learned to make. I would watch a lot of Food Network. I would act like I was Ina Garten, honestly. I'd be like, isn't that fabulous? Today, mac and cheese. I'm going to be making Julia Moskin's iconic creamy macaroni and cheese, one of our most popular recipes on NYT Cooking. She kind of did this deep dive on what makes the perfect macaroni and cheese, which honestly sounds like a really cool job. There are just so many ways to make macaroni and cheese. What your perfect version is might not be my perfect version. I love a shells and cheese. I love a box. I love a Velveeta, but that's not what this is. It is truly a recipe in which the macaroni and the cheese become one. In the oven, it is baked, it is delicious. So I'm gonna make this recipe one time through as Julia wrote it. It smells delicious. I'm gonna look at some of the things that you all have suggested in the comments section, and then I'm gonna go through and try some of those changes. Then at the end, I'm gonna see what I liked, and I'm going to make my perfect version of this macaroni and cheese, all in keeping with the heart of this recipe, which is low effort, high reward macaroni and cheese. In Julia's reporting, she talked to a lot of people about like what macaroni and cheese is, right? And one person who wrote this cookbook was basically like, macaroni and cheese nowadays is macaroni with cheese sauce. And it's like, he was aboard that it was, that we like macaroni with cheese sauce. The macaroni and the cheese should become one with one another. And one of the first things that she tried that she said that she was astounded by was combining cottage cheese with milk and then uncooked macaroni, and the macaroni cooks while it bakes. It's a great way of making macaroni and cheese, I think. We're gonna see. First thing you gotta do is take a tablespoon of butter and really get in there and grease it. It's more so for flavor as much as it is for helping the mac and cheese like kind of lift out when you scoop it. Perf, you're like basically halfway there already. So cottage cheese is really having a moment right now. I will say I haven't been one of those people that's like been on the cottage cheese train. I have recently found myself on the cottage cheese train because I think it's been having a moment, but I have a weak constitution and that's just who I am as a person. It's going to be a thicker dairy product that helps bind the cheese with the pasta. It's there for a little bit of flavor, but it's also there for the science of it all. Just go for whole milk, go for the full fat cottage cheese. Here's some salt and some pepper, ground mustard. Additionally, nutmeg is just a pinch, and then cayenne. This is also just a pinch. It's not gonna make it spicy. It's really just there to kind of add a little bit more like of a zip. Oh, I mean, I thought we were about to blast off there for a second. When you blend it, those curds, they kind of disappear. It just becomes a thicker mixture because those curds are blending in together. This recipe is like so easy. Make sure it's evenly incorporated so that you don't have any big pockets of cheese or pockets of your milk mixture. I'm just gonna put it into my prepared dish. There is like not a single time where I've ever been able to not make a mess. Covering it at this stage is also gonna help keep a lot of that moisture in there so that it also helps the pasta bake a little bit more evenly throughout. Wow, that was almost like too easy. I feel like I didn't do anything. So be careful because when you uncover this, there could be steam that comes everywhere and you don't wanna burn yourself. But, oh. That is looking lovely. Because that cheese has started to melt, that macaroni has started to cook, now is a good time to go in there and give it a little stir. And this stir is starting to help the cream and the cheese really mix well together. The cheese on top should get a little crispy. And since I buttered that dish, I already have butter around the sides, so I kind of focused that butter a little bit more in the middle. So this goes back in the oven for another 30 minutes, and then we gotta let it cool for at least 15 minutes because it is gonna be really hot. The original mac and cheese, the OG, she's done. Oh my word. That looks so good and so bubbly. I want like Vivaldi's Four Seasons to be playing like Chef's Table when it opens up. When we took it out, it was super bubbly. Like you could just see a lot of the butter and a lot of oils from the cheese on top. As it sat, I think that all of that pasta kind of reabsorbed a lot of it. I love like how this edge piece is kind of like crunchy. That's lovely. The noodles are really springy. You can definitely tell that the noodles and the cheese have kind of become one, which is what we were looking for. I'm excited to dive into a lot of the comments and see what people have tried out. But overall, what a great control. What a great frame of reference for our future tests. This recipe has 14,426 5-star reviews at the time of this recording. It's about to have 14,427. This guy. There are some really interesting suggestions in the comments. I'm really interested to try out a couple different things here. I still want to keep with the intention of the original recipe, which is a milk mixture, uncooked pasta, and cheese. Even just looking at the comments, there's a lot of really great suggestions about what you can swap one for one in terms of, you know, your binder, which in the original recipe is cottage cheese. Some people say things like whole milk ricotta, sour cream, cream cheese, goat cheese, a pound of Weight Watchers rotini, frozen broccoli. Teresa, you're bad. JN says, to make it less grainy, you need fats, which I love that those are in quotation marks. Use a whole milk, use, you know, your full fat cottage cheese. There's a lot of different comments about types of cheeses. Aged Gouda. Gouda is like a really nice melty cheese. I feel like that would be a good one to try out. Oh, according to Martha, use white cheddar rather than orange. She didn't have a reason, but I think she's correct. Oh, wow. Here's a familiar face. Emily Weinstein, our editor, says that this macaroni and cheese has a distinct advantage above all others. You neither boil the pasta nor make a roux. The process is as unfussy as the dish itself, and the dish itself is outrageously good, which I agree with. Macaroni and cheese should be unfussy. I'm intrigued in the name of science to try a couple different things out. You know, maybe a cream cheese, a sour cream, or even like a ricotta. There's a comment about how a younger cheddar, something that's not as aged, might actually be better because it's not as like dry. And then obviously Velveeta. Like we gotta try it with a little bit of Velveeta in there because I think that that's gonna be delicious and really creamy. I'm already scared for the amount of cheese that I'm gonna be consuming today. So now the fun part. This is truly my favorite part because this is where I get to like go back to middle school science class and like try out some different things. So this is gonna be our test of different fat sources, right? Sour cream, cream cheese, creme fraiche, ricotta. I'm going with the original recipe completely except for the cottage cheese. So I will be using cheddar cheese in this. And then my next round of testing will be trying out different cheeses. I'm gonna make each version as a half because making the full versions with all of these things seems just a little bit excessive. I mean, we've got a lot of people in the studio here today, but that's a lot of mac and cheese. This is like a very, very creamy, I mean, you know what cream cheese is, so I don't need to explain it to you. Like sour cream is obviously really sour. I'm intrigued to see how it not only affects the texture of the bake, but also the flavor. Ricotta is actually one of those things that I saw a lot in the comments. Wow, this is really nice ricotta. Like a little quality control. Oh my God. Ricotta can be a little on the grainy side, but when it gets blended out, it's really like luxurious and smooth. Last up, we've got creme fraiche. If cream cheese and sour cream had a really fancy baby, that's what creme fraiche is. All right, now that I have my one-to-one swaps for the cottage cheese, I'm just gonna continue with the exact same written recipe. Okay, that was fun. My mom like literally has a closet dedicated to these foil things. Oh, I took the tape off of both of them. That's 100% creme fraiche. Oh my God. All right, these are gonna go in the oven. The oven. All right, going back in the oven for another 30 minutes and I'll see you there. I'm gonna go ahead with my cheese test. I already have the milk mixture made for all 4 cheese tests, which is the same exact one as the original recipe with cottage cheese, right? Because the only variable that I wanna change in this round of testing would be the cheese. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to pick some cheeses to test out that were not only gonna change the flavor, but also might change how the cheese binds to that milk mixture, how it emulsifies as it bakes. This is a low moisture mozzarella. Oh, I'm gonna save some, thank you. I'm gonna save some for the top. I feel like if you get like a nice fresh ball of mozzarella, that's not gonna be as good of like a melty cheese as something that's low moisture because this has a lot of that like water taken out of it. So it's gonna be able to be like a little stretchier. That's when you have like a mozzarella stick. It's got like, that nice little cheese pull effect. I've got some young cheddar here, which is basically a cheddar that hasn't been aged as much. It's got a little less of a bite to it. Still really good though. Next, a lot of commenters said that a smoked Gouda would be nice. So this is obviously gonna change the flavor. Gouda is a pretty nice melty cheese too. I think there's something to be said like similarly in mac and cheese as there is in grilled cheese. It's like, maybe not necessarily the fancier the cheese you use, the better it's gonna be. I don't know, we'll try. Like maybe this Gouda is gonna blow my socks off. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, is Old Faithful Velveeta. I love Velveeta. I'm intrigued to see how the Velveeta is gonna be on the top. I don't think it's gonna get as like crispy and bubbly as non-engineered cheese. Like that tastes like mac and cheese to me already. And the texture is so different. It's like eating soft plastic, but it's so good. I mean, who even knows what's in this stuff? But to that I say, who cares? I think that American cheese is engineered so that you get like really gooey cheese. I'm just gonna cover these and bake them the same exact way I baked all the other ones, and then top them with reserved cheese, a little bit of butter, and then we'll try it. I just took the cheese out of the oven. I'm gonna give them a stir. Right off the bat, we're seeing some pretty hefty differences here. This is the young cheddar. The color is vastly different from the other ones, but kind of gloopy. The mozzarella, oh yeah. As I stir this one, like look how like cheese pulley creamy it is. All right, this is the smoked Gouda. This also has that kind of like stretchy cheese factor like the mozzarella. Such an intense flavor, but it smells so good. Wow. I think the smoked Gouda is obviously gonna be like very different. Lastly, my child, Velveeta Vreeland. This one's quite soupy. There isn't a lot of separation between the fat and the solids. Now we saw with the original one that fat that sits on top, that butter, the fat from the cheese, eventually gets reabsorbed by the pasta, which makes it like, you know, really kind of unctuous and luxurious. So now I'm gonna top them. All right, this Velveeta's already like re-solidified into a block. It like literally has a mind of its own. I'm afraid that it's gonna like start taking over like AI, but it's also just gonna sink into the bottom of this. It's like honestly not even really worth topping it, but that's okay. And dot them with butter. All right, back into the oven these go for, I'm gonna keep an eye on them just because it's smaller portions, but for probably about 25-30 minutes. My dairy tests are, I think, done. They look really good. Just looking at these, they all look very similar. The cream cheese looks a tiny bit different, but we'll gotta wait like 15 minutes for them to kind of set up. And it's not what's on the outside that counts, it's what's on the inside that counts. While the cheese tests cool, my dairy tests have cooled enough. I'm really intrigued. The ricotta, like it's got like an egginess to it. It's got a very similar texture to the cottage cheese. Interestingly enough, I feel like that has more flavor too. Like the cottage cheese was just giving like a salty note. This is giving like that really fresh dairy. That's good. Sour cream. That's a big bite. Why do that? So that's giving like a little bit more of a tang, which is playing nicely with the cheddar. I do like that. Next, I'm going cream cheese. This one is the one that I think I was kind of most excited about. It's like tangy, like the sour cream one, but even though it's like a thicker, more compact dairy, it's not really that different from the lighter kind of sour cream. Now creme fraiche, this is our, our fancy friend. That is rich. Flavor-wise, I really like the sour cream and the cream cheese. Texture-wise, I like the sour cream and the creme fraiche. The ricotta and the cream cheese have a little bit more like of a bounciness to them, whereas the sour cream and the creme fraiche has a little bit more smoothness. Personally, I like the tang a little bit more here that the dairy gives than the cottage cheese. I like the smoothness of the texture. I think that it really kind of binds well with the cheese. So I like the sour cream. Great, done. All right. Let's try the cheeses. Let's try the young cheddar. This is really nice because it's retained a lot of that nice cheddary bite. For some reason, I feel like the other cheddar that we used, I didn't get as much of that flavor, which is why I liked the sour cream edition. But this one, I'm getting that tang from the cheddar, even though we used the cottage cheese. Okay, I'm gonna try mozzarella. Oh, see, that's kind of nice. It's like a mozzarella stick and macaroni and cheese had a baby. As it sits, I worry that that would get like a brick. All right, now Gouda. Digging into this one, I can tell that it's creamy. I mean, obviously it's smoky. That's good. I like that flavor a lot. All right, I mean, the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the Velveeta. When we took this one out of the oven, it was kind of soupy, but it's been sitting for about 15 minutes. I mean, it like reabsorbed a lot of that liquid, but not in like an oily way. Like I just feel like the other ones kind of had a little bit of a, like almost like a slice of pizza that you needed to dab with a paper towel to begin with. This one seems like it's really nicely emulsified those fats with those proteins. It's not just good because it's like reminding me of childhood and because I am secretly a creamy mac and cheese fan over baked mac and cheese, but what it's lacking in that nice like sharpness of a fresh cheese, it's making up for in what it's doing for the texture. I mean, yeah, obviously Velveeta won. It won. But I feel like it can't just be Velveeta. So I think I know what I'm gonna do. 2/3 Velveeta, 1/3 cheddar. I can't believe that I made 10 different types of mac and cheese today, but ultimately that was in service of ending up with my ultimate mac and cheese here, which I haven't tried yet, but oh baby, it looks good. Oh yeah, that is it. Honestly, 5 minutes ago, I was like, I never want to see another mac and cheese ever again, but that's really good. It's got that hallmark creaminess of the Velveeta and the shape of the pasta. I mean, fusilli, fun, silly. I upped the nutmeg and the cayenne factor a little bit, so that kind of shines a little bit more in this, but it's got all the flavor of a purely cheddar cheese mac and cheese. Because you have the tang of the sour cream and that little bit of cheddar in there, I think it works perfectly, but it's also still not like a macaroni and cheese sauce, which I think was the whole point of this. I think that a recipe is a special work of art because it is living and breathing, and it's something that you can always adapt to be your own. I think it's so fun that you can get this, turn it into this, and end up with something like this. Good God, next time can I make a salad?